What is up, my bodyweight warriors, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over the lower back and why strengthening the lower back is so crucial and often an overlooked aspect of bodyweight training, and also how you can make it harder without using weights. Sometimes we're traveling, we're training outside, we're training at home, we don't necessarily have access to perfect equipment. So today I'm going to go over 4 options that you can use to make the back extension harder, make the most out of your training to get better results and strengthen that lower back. Generally speaking, if we strengthen the lower back, we're going to be stronger in general overall, and it often feeds into movements that you wouldn't necessarily suspect are connected. The lower back is kind of the origin, the powerhouse of a lot of movements in general, so strengthening it is a very fundamental part of that, and I'm going to show you today how you can best do that with bodyweight training. Let's jump straight into it. Right, so way number 1 isn't necessarily a way we can make things harder, but it is a way in which we can change the focus of the back extension itself. And this is an important one to understand depending on what we want to get out of the exercise. This all comes down to how we're going to set up the support of the object, the padding, whatever it is that is supporting our midsection when we're doing the back extension itself. Depending on where we place it, it's going to change the emphasis of the exercise. If we place that edge, that line of that object closer towards that hip line, this is going to focus a little bit more on that lower back activation in this exercise. If we were to then lower that edge of that padding down more towards the top of the thighs, we're going to get a little bit more focus onto glute activation. Don't get me wrong, you're still going to be working the glutes and the hamstrings and the lower back during either of these 2 options when we're doing the back extension, but there is a way in which we can bias things a little bit towards the lower back or the glutes. This is important to say, for example, if you have anterior or posterior pelvic tilt. If we have anterior pelvic tilt, we often have overuse of those lumbar erectors. We might want to focus a little bit more on working those glutes, and the opposite for posterior pelvic tilt, we want to focus a little bit more on that lower back. So alternating where we're going to have that hip line on our back extension can alter the effect of the exercise, not dramatically, but it does definitely have an impact. So with that first point in mind, let's move on to some ways in which you can make things more challenging with your back extension. So point number 2, we're going to talk about accentuated eccentrics mechanical advantage, such a fundamental concept to get around in training, specifically very useful for trying to make the bodyweight back extension harder. So we're going to make things harder by simply extending the lever. The lever is our upper body in this instance. So the usual back extension we're going to do with our hands somewhere around our body position. What we're going to do instead to accentuate that eccentric, make that negative harder because we're going to be stronger in it, is when we lift up to that top position, we're going to move our hands from holding in front of our chest, holding around our body position. We're going to simply straighten them out into an overhead position, and we're going to lower, keeping our hands in that position. This is going to make that exercise harder on that downward portion, the portion that we're strongest in. This one can be done just holding a dumbbell, and it works very well in that instance as well. If you do have some weight about, even a water bottle, something extra can make this exercise really, really effective. And of course, if the whole thing is just too easy, then you can hold your hands overhead for both parts of the movement. Option number 3, the third way in which we can make this one a little bit more challenging, is by adjusting the angle of our body. So most time back extensions are performed at a roughly 45, 50 degrees, somewhere around that midline angle. So we're going to be approaching a more vertical body position. Because gravity is the main thing that is making our life hard for us, we need to just use and abuse it to make it harder. And the best way to do this is to adjust that body position from that 45 to a 90-degree position. All this is doing is simply making the effect of gravity much greater in that top, the hardest position of the back extension. And again, the previous 2 options can also be applied to this particular option as well. The 4th and final option that we have is making this exercise a unilateral exercise. And we do this by just making this exercise into a single leg exercise, a single leg back extension. If 2 legs are easy, we'll just use the 1 leg. This is going to double the intensity of the exercise. The second leg is basically going to be bent to about a 90-degree position, so the leg itself is not actually doing anything, but you will still need to use both hips to kind of stabilize this position, because it's easy to kind of rotate out of this single leg back extension. But essentially moving from 2 legs to 1 leg is going to dramatically increase the intensity of this exercise. If you have 1 leg that is stronger than the other, and this one will become evident when doing this exercise, just start with that leg when you're doing your set, and eventually it will even out over time. And if both legs are pretty even, feel free to alternate which leg starts the set. As with all of the rest of these exercises, you can apply the previous options, that mechanical advantage, and also the adjusting the angle to that 90-degree position to make this final progression that much harder. And to be honest, collectively, with all of these 4 options in place, you could make the back extension pretty damn hard without actually having to use any additional weight. If you are traveling, if you don't have access to perfect equipment, if you're training outside, whatever the case may be, with these variations, you can still make your lower back training hard and get the most out of it when it comes to strength gains. There is no harm in using weights. If you do have access to weights, if you do have access to a gym, use it. Those are the best tools for the trade when it comes to lower back training. At the end of the day, adding more load is probably the simplest and easiest way to go. This is just kind of an example of how we can use bodyweight training effectively to still get the same sort of results. But that is basically it when it comes to those modifications for the lower back. If you enjoyed this video, you know what you do. You can hit that thumbs up button, support the channel, support that YouTube algorithm. You can also leave a comment in the comment section down below if you have any questions or just want to leave your thoughts on what you like to do when it comes to lower back training. Finally, whilst you're down there, you can also hit that subscribe button if you want to join the Bodyweight Warrior tribe and don't miss out any more future videos. But that has basically been it for this week, guys. I'll catch you in the next episode. Have a strong week and